Now in today's video, what we're going to do is test some Evercoat products, the hand glaze and the compound. I'm going to explain the difference and what possibly you could benefit from using either product or both, when to use it, when not to use it, and I'm going to do a real-world test on some real-world paint that's relatively soft, and it's probably just a little bit less than 24 hours old total, but it'll put these products to a real-world test. Now on older, harder paint, the results should be even better. But look at this video. These products work well, and you can get a pretty good idea of how they've worked for me. Well, the last couple of days, we've really lucked out with the weather. We knew snow was coming, and our weatherman was right. We got a ton of snow out there to shovel and smoosh out and everything. But we managed to get the parts painted. We wanted to paint the radiator side covers. They're drying here. I'm going to take them down by the heating vent. We really lucked out, because today to paint out there would be sloppy anyway. We got that done. That's down drying. And the biggest thing of all, the magnets came. Wow. After 4 days of delays, we have our magnets. So we have two projects. We have the buffing out and the side covers. And I don't know how the day is going to play out, because there's a lot of snow out there to deal with. And this time of year, that weather basically decides when you can paint, when you can't, when it's reasonable to be out in the garage and laying on your back on this old carpeting, and when it's better to be downstairs in a nice warm house with a cup of coffee and some rubbing compound or some 8065. I pick 8065 today. But what I got to do is I got to take those parts, get them up by a heating vent. Now last time what happened, I had them out in the garage drying overnight, and once they were dry to the touch, you almost could touch them, I put them downstairs, 4 hours up by the heating vent, and believe me, the heat never shuts off in this old house. It shuts off once an hour. But anyway, that's the whole point. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm trying to do it realistically, what time window do I need before I can buff the parts? Well, we'll add to that database today. Look at the poor birdhouse, Karen. It's all snowed in. I'll give them extra seeds today. It is a beautiful winter wonderland here in Rutherford, New Jersey. It looks so nice the day it snows. The little melts and gets mushy. Oh, I don't even have the windows shut yet, but I see they're out there. Yep, there they come. Look at that, didn't take long. Shut the window. 10 seconds later, I have customers at the restaurant. Truly a winter wonderland. Hey, we got to clean that snow up. And there's what you need if you're going to shovel snow. Extra coffee. These birds are really hungry this morning. I can't believe it. Okay, the parts have dried up. It's time to put them down by a heating vent and get them out of the snow. Now with those parts up by a heating vent, what happened last time? We left the parts up there for 4 hours after being in the garage overnight in below freezing temperatures. And we were able to, these parts right here, we were able to buff them out relatively easily. So that's the plan today. We have about 3 or 4 hours of shoveling and cleaning and other things to do around the house. And they should be ready to buff out. But if they're not, then we'll work on our magnets, because guess what? We got our magnets already. Yay! So we were expecting snow for the last couple of days, and we finally got it. And of course, lucky us, now there's something else I have to take into account here, as well as the normal work on a pond and keeping the fish alive and feeding the birds and, my God, shoveling. Now, the snow blower would normally be good if the snow were a little deeper. This was kind of not much of a problem, so I figured I'd get the exercise, because I intended somewhere in this day to do some hand buffing and get those muscles all ready to go. Anyway, the day played out very well. Now, it's really important for me to be able to get back and forth from the garage to do the battery tenders and do, well, any work we're doing, and be able to get to my sacred paint table. Boy, these parts dried up just beautifully in the cold weather. But of course, there's always a thing. There's always dust in them. There's always little I don't know if these are really fish eyes. There's little imperfections in them. It won't matter. It won't matter even a tiny amount, because we're going to sand this out once it dries. I'm going to give it 4 hours. I have a lot of other things to do here. And then come back to it. And after 4 hours, this paint, at least the other parts, were ready to buff. So this will be an interesting test, and just add some information to what we're trying to learn about this paint, the Chromax, and the combination that we have for parts we're going to paint for this bike. So the way this day played out, I thought these are the products that Dale, when he picked up the Ducati part, he left these here for me to test. Today would be a good day to test them. So when Dale donated those, I thought, well, you know what? I was working on these parts. I thought, well, we could give them a test. But now we have a part that isn't buffed at all. So we can give this a real world test. And the thing I always think is I have more than one laundry basket full of compounding products and polishes. And in reality, they're all pretty good. Some a little bit better, some are a lot more expensive, but they're all pretty good. So we're going to give this a try. And I'm going to go through the routine with the parts, the radiator sides. We'll go right down the list and see how this plays out. Now, because we don't have a spray booth, there's always little dust or little imperfections in the paint. And that's why, for me, it's critical when I'm done with anything. I 2000 grit sand it, and I'll 2000 grit sand this. And then we'll try Dale's products instead of 8065. I'm sure they're going to work. It's only a question of, it's almost like, do you want a hamburger or a hot dog? But all these modern polishes seem to work pretty good. So the best thing, or the best way that I know how to do any of this, 2000 grit. Now when I've used 2500 or 3000, I haven't seen any difference. Yeah, you can do that. And of course, inevitably, what happens is each grade of polish that you use is you want to have a higher number. In other words, if you sand something with 1500, the scratches are deeper than 2000. 2000 is steeper than 2500. But what happens is you're trading away how quick it takes to do the job. So I want to get the whole test here is to get this part flat, perfectly flat, and get out any of the dust that's in it, any of the imperfections, any of that stuff. I want to be real careful not to get the edges and sand right through. Anytime there's a high spot, real careful. And this is just one of the things. Patience pays. You've got to take your time. In the case of this part, we probably could buff this with a machine. We probably could buff it by hand. And we'll try both, to be fair. And I want to thank Dale for contributing that. I've never used that product before. When Glenn used to work at the shop on a regular basis, he brought back, I don't remember, several different kinds of polishes and buffers and stuff. And they all worked pretty good. It really was a personal choice thing. Now, I'm not married to 8065 at all. It's just the thing that the body shop where I buy parts suggested I try it, and it worked great on the clear that we're using. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to work on every paint or every surface, older paint, newer paint, but it's really it's an art, not a science. But the whole thing is get the part flat first. No matter what compound or what method you use, you'll make it a lot easier on yourself, and the job will ultimately be better if you get it perfectly flat first. I prefer 2000 grit paper for my own work. And once it's totally flat, free of defects, you've saved so much more time when it actually comes to doing the actual polishing and buffing. Okay, so the objective of sanding with the 2000 grit is we've gotten rid of absolutely all the imperfections that are in here, whether they're dust or little baby fisheye craters or whatever. It doesn't really matter. This is now flat, and it's dull, and it has, let's define what it has, 2000 grit scratches. Now, I think, but I'm not sure, if I were to let this part sit 2 or 3 days out by a heating vent, maybe this would be, the material would be harder, and maybe it would have less prone to scratches. But it doesn't really matter. We're not getting paid by the hour. Oh, we're trying to learn something, and I wanted to have this part totally prepped so that I could see how Dale's product, and let's just call them Dale's products, and thank you, Dale, of course, and let's see how they work. Okay, in the exact same way I test 8065. You get rid of the old pad. Never use the old pad if it's something you really treasure. The pads are cheap enough, and they're a couple bucks a piece, and they ensure, number one, that the job, you're not going to scratch the paint unnecessarily. Because what happens when you try to use the old pads up, all of a sudden you look, everything's beautiful, and you got a big scratch in it. So this is my number one tip of the century. Never use an old pad. Now, to be fair about it, what happens with all of these polishes, and it doesn't matter what brand they are, they're rated by what grit they have in them. And as an example, Flitz is 6,000 grit. You can't legally call it a polish. It's too smooth. So they sell it as Flitz, not as a polish. It's not advertised as a polish, even though it polishes. Now, I don't know why. I didn't elect any of these people to office, and they probably don't know how to polish anything anyway. So anyway, we're going to get this, a brand new pad. I'm going to get I'm going to read the directions on that material, because it looks like there's more than one step to this whole operation using that system, where with 8065 it's a one-shot thing. But I want to give it a test. And the truth is, you never learn anything unless you're willing to try stuff. Now, if you understand how this works, this is telling you this is medium compound. This is going to be some rough stuff here. This is going to take some material off. But if you look at this chart, we have, this is what we're looking for, max finish, of course. But right in here is glaze. Now we have the glaze on this product. So I'm assuming now, it might be that they want you to use this on without 2000 grit sanding. This might be, see, they don't tell you, unless I've not been able to find it. They don't tell you to grit on these things. You're supposed to be able to interpret it from here. But, you know, it doesn't say, but Flitz says it on the can. Okay, it doesn't say. Anyway, what we know already is that this product, this is going to be rougher. It's going to leave scratches that this product takes out. And apparently there's even one beyond this. So to be fair, maybe you need 3. Now the stuff Glenn had was 3 or 4 steps. But what we're going to do, let's give it a fair try. You know, torque is cheap. Buffing is, now first thing I'll do is try this by hand before I even put it on the machine to see how rough it is, because just like DuPont rubbing compound, red and white, the red is so gritty, it's probably rougher than 2000 grit paper. But well, let's give it a try and let's see if we can learn something today. So this is the first product we're going to check. It's medium rubbing compound, and again, this would tell me that it's pretty rough stuff. Removes imperfections. Anything that removes imperfections is going to remove a lot of material. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind. This is probably the equivalent of toothpaste, that the grit in it, and it's the grit that does the work. The carrier agent, it's just there. Water, there's silicone, there's other chemicals, and you can see somewhere in here it says no silicones. Well, Body Shop safe. I don't know about that, but even good old-fashioned toothpaste will buff paint out. It's the grade of the grit that does the work. The finer grits are going to be up here at this end of the scale. So, but we're going to try this and we're going to see what happens. I just have a feeling, because this paint is soft and fresh, this is going to be a little too rough. Obviously, step 1, shake it, because the abrasive is going to sink to the bottom eventually. But keep in mind that abrasive is like, if you think about it, would you brush your teeth with 80 grit sandpaper? No, you'd want, 2,000, I don't know. You know, the finer grit, like Flitz is the finest that I know, is 6,000 grit. Now, some of the products tell you right on here what the grit is. This one doesn't, or they've got it coded in here somewhere, and I don't know. It doesn't matter. All you need to know is it rough, smooth, or is it going to do the job you want? I don't know. So let's just see. This looks like generic, like the rubbing compounds I've used in the past. And the reason I'm not putting it on a machine, I want to see how quick it's going to bring this up. Now, in the world of lacquer or butyrate dope, you say, how long does it take to bring the finish up? Bringing the finish up would mean, we're going to get some of this product on here, and just do a spot at random without a machine. Let's see how quick it brings it up, and let's see the quality of the the final shine is what we're looking for. But polishing is really, oh boy, it's not as easy as it looks. And I've seen so many people in the world of model planes think you could just take a piece of rough, very rough material and just put polish and wax on it and it's going to look like a hand buff finish. It's anything but that. Anyway, we'll know right away. Doesn't take long to set this part. This has a nice smell to it. It has a petroleum smell. Anyway, and I'm always willing to learn. I'm never at the point where I think, and I don't sell anything or promote anything or try to get these companies to send me a free tube of toothpaste or something. I just want to know, and I just want to pass the information on, because it is really something nice. When you go to a motorcycle meetup and you see a bike that's really polished up and the wheels are clean and around the chain is clean, everything's polished, all the aluminum parts, it's a thing of beauty. And it's a thing you can share with your friends, you know, whether they like it or not. Sometimes they like it and they're jealous, they don't tell you. Okay, so let's just get a look at this. Now I can immediately see this is a little bit too rough for this. I don't know if you, I'm going to put this on a macro lens and see. It's leaving too many scratches along the way. The finish has got scratches in it, and that's what you try to avoid. It's because this material is rough and it's trying to take off too much material at once. So rather than put this on a buffing wheel, we're going to skip this, leave this step out here, and I'll use this part up here to try to glaze. Now it could be, if we didn't have this 2000 grit sanded, maybe this is what they anticipate you doing, is just going right over paint with this. I don't know. But anyway, this will give this a try right here with the glaze. Okay, now this material is hand glaze. Of course, it's going to have finer grit. This we'll put into the buffing machine. You put that other stuff in a buffing machine, I think it's going to take a lot more material off than you want, because this paint is soft. Old paint, I could go out and buff my, you know what I'll do in the future when we don't have any snow? I'll take that other, the compound, and go out by the my 12-year-old minivan and see if I can buff up some of the scratches in that. Ultimate wet look finish, perfect on OEM refit and refinish parts. Contains no silicone. Okay, and this is almost at, this is where flits would be over here. So let's see, I'll put some of this on the machine and we'll give this a try. Okay, so to make this test as fair as possible, don't drop it. Okay, and this is just a quick test to see, just get some rough idea. Now even in fast forward, you can see just about roughly how long it would take to get this finish to come up, and it did come right up. Now I'd say it's pretty clear to me which side of this I would want. But again, not a fair test, not trying to make a fair test. This is way nicer at this side because it's finer grit. Of course, it's glazed. And by the way, if somebody wants to, let's see, it says max finish. If there's a finer grade of this, I'll be willing to test it. Bring me some parts to test it on. And this, I think this is pretty much the same as 8065 in terms of grit. Because I'm looking at it with my good glasses, and boy, there's not a scratch left in the material. And this is soft paint, so that's a real world test. Now, this is certainly not some scientific test in a laboratory, but I'm not sure how quick you can see. Though, so if you're going to sand, what I guess I learned from this, if you're going to sand with 2000 grit, don't even bother with compound. The compound is too rough. Just, you save yourself the time, the energy, the money. Just buy the glaze. I think the glaze is pretty much the same as 8065. I'll do this whole part now off camera. Well, I'll put it in fast forward. Just so I can see, because this polish will take these scratches out. That's the thing to learn from this. The finer polishes, the one thing you'd never want to do is to put this polish on top of that. You'd kill it. So this actually is it's good information. A lot of people don't know it. A lot of people think there's some magic. Polish is grit and carrier. That's it. Okay, so we're going to start with this, and I'm going to just go over the whole part with the glaze. And we already have some on the buffer. I'm not sure we need any more. We may. This is very liquidy stuff. It's very nice. It actually smells nice. Very nice to use, by the way. So we're just going to see if we can do the whole part with this. And a thing that's apparent right away with the buffer is the glaze takes out the compounding scratches that the compound, because it's rough, leaves in soft paint. Takes them out right away too. The glaze did a really, really nice job here. And a lot of times with the small now I'd say that shine is very comparable to the shine of 8065, very close. So what has quickly evolved for me is, if anybody wants to try that glaze, that I think a good way to do it. And I would, if you're going to do it, I'd wait the extra day so the paint hardens up. It'll just go faster. It won't be any better, it'll be faster. But what'll happen here, and I've had real good luck with 2000 grit. Get it flat, get out all the imperfections, get a brand new buffing pad, and that Evercoat glaze. Don't even bother with the compound. And unless you have some real big imperfections. Every part of this now is really, really nice. And we're under fluorescent lights. Fluorescent lights show errors and scratches a lot better than if we would put incandescent lights on this. It looks 100 times better. But that on a snowy day, that was very nice. Again, thank you, Dale. So we've got one part done. The other part's still up by the heating vent. We'll get the other one done off camera. And that's probably all we're going to get done today, because it started snowing again. And I'm trying to minimize going outside in the crappy weather. I like to shovel as often as possible, but this was definitely a good afternoon. So I think it's safe to say we learned something today, and hopefully we've been able to pass that on to you. So we did learn something I think significant, is if you're going to be buffing out soft paint that's only a day or two old, I'm guessing 2000 grit, this material on a Harbor Freight buffer, and you'll get some pretty good results. The compound, I don't know. I'm not familiar with, to be honest. I really don't like compounding anything with heavy compound. I'd rather spend the extra time, because this is what I want for a finish. I want it to be really high gloss. What it is on the end of this strip, max finish they call it. Anyway, but this is good quality material, and the compound actually takes material off, but it's taking it off at a much too fast of a rate for what I want to use. But that's how you learn things. You got to do these little tests, little experiments. And then in my case, the joy I get from the whole thing is being able to pass it on to my friends and to the people on YouTube. So the last part of this test will be, when I get a chance to do it, is to try some of these products on my minivan, which is the reason of using that. It's 12, 13-year-old paint, and see how they work on that. I'm sure they'll work well. They seem like good quality stuff, and I think it's going to be a new part of the arsenal we have to fight dull paint and fight flat black. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to look at some of these pictures on my computer. I like to do this at the end of a day like today. How much snow we had one time. I don't even remember what year this was. Look at the pile of snow there. And it reminds me, today we ducked a bullet. We had a minimum amount of snow. There was nothing that kept me from having fun today. Nothing a few extra cups of coffee wouldn't take care of. And boy, oh boy, look at that pile of snow. I'm glad the snow was minimal. Even a little bit we had in the afternoon amounted to nothing. And the beauty of having a lot of pictures on my computer is, on a freezing cold, snowy day like this, I can just snap up some of the memories of the A-Team, the memories of summer, fall riding, some of the great times we had in the past, and I'm sure we're going to have some great times in the future. And people that we don't see much anymore, and people that we see all the time. Having those pictures on my computer is a priceless thing. to relive some of the great days that I've had in motorcycling, in the world of motorcycling, and of course, most of all, some of the great friends I've made along the way. Now, pictures and video are such a wonderful thing, I think, and when you can have them on your computer and relive these days, these summer days, boy, if only I could just put this in a bottle. This was the day I went with Lauren and we went out to the Bomber, got to visit, walk through the Bomber and do our thing up there. It was really a spectacular day, a great day to have a Ducati Monster, a great day to visit the Bomber. And Lauren, I know you're wherever you are now, Bad Seed. Hey, we miss you. Haven't seen you in a while. We're out on a wing of the Bomber here, having a cup of coffee. Another spectacular memory, another great adventure in motorcycling. But then they're all really great adventures, every one. And to me, there's so many things about motorcycling that entertain me. I love doing the restorations, especially the paintwork and the polishing, making a bike as nice as I possibly can, especially if it's an older bike. Even a new bike like the MT-09, just to make it nicer than the factory made it. But the best part of motorcycling, if I had to pick one part, it's just going for rides with your friends on a beautiful summer day, going up to Perkins, going up to Perry's, going to the meetups, the market, Rutt's Hut when they have the old bike night. There's just so many aspects of it that are enjoyable, and they keep you young. Working on bikes, I don't care what anybody says. You work on bikes hard enough, ride them hard enough, and go on enough rides, you're going to live longer than the guy that sat home on a rocking chair and ate Jelly Bellies all day long, especially if you ate a lot of them. So again, if you're new to my channel, we have over 2,400 videos now out there. We try to post something up almost every day, even when it's snowing. We're going to try to post something up tomorrow, even if it snows tomorrow. But we try to, because it's our way of sharing the life we've been blessed with our friends and with the people on YouTube that follow us and enjoy the interaction. They enjoy Karen's cookies. They enjoy seeing my kids have their back of the house ripped off. It's all fun. And going on these rides, hanging out with friends, I don't know what else I could do with my life that'd be any better. I don't know. Maybe joining the mafia would have been more fun. I don't know. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you share it with your friends. And of course, I hope, most of all, that we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again for watching.